Inshallah, we are going to look at points to analyze where we stand in according to the ruku that we have done. And we completed Surah Fatiha, so we are going to do a self-analysis about what we believe. And in this Fihi Zikrukum, Ustaza Nigat Hashmi has these points. We are going to analyze ourselves as to how much we believe in the statements of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At this point, where do I stand? So Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The scholar Ustaza Nigat Hashmi in Fihi Zikrukum review and assessment points. We are going to look at this chart right in front of us, and we are going to assess ourselves as to where do we stand at this point in life. How much do we believe? Do we believe? Do we not believe? To some extent or to a great extent? This is a chart in front of you. Inshallah, you can write these points down in your notebook, and you can write the answer to the points. This is a review, inshallah ta'ala, of Surah Fatiha, inshallah. Ameen. Okay, so we begin. I believe that, number one, I start things with the name of Allah. Yes, no, to some extent, to a great extent. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We say a dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to start all things with your name. Point number two, I believe that all praise is for Allah, that to Allah belongs all praise. Yes, no, to some extent, to great extent. Where do I find myself? Number three, I thank Allah for everything. Do I thank Allah for everything? I have to ask that to myself. Yes, I thank Allah for everything, or no, to some extent, to great extent. Where do I see myself? This is a self-analysis, self-assessment, a review of Surah Fatiha. We go to number four. I feel content in the knowledge that Allah is the Lord of the worlds. How much? We are judging ourselves. We are assessing ourselves. Yes, no, to some extent, to great extent. Number five, Allah is entirely merciful. Where do I stand here? Yes, no, to some extent, to great extent. Do I believe that Allah is entirely merciful? And number six, Allah is especially merciful. Do I believe that Allah is especially merciful? Yes, no, to some extent, to great extent. Number seven, I am accountable for my acts before Allah on the day of recompense. I believe that I am accountable for my acts before Allah on the day of recompense. How much? Is it a total yes that I believe that? Or no, I don't believe? Or I believe to some extent? Or I believe to a great extent? Number eight, I believe that I consider myself the slave of Allah all the time. Yes, no, to some extent, to a great extent. I believe that I find happiness in worshiping Allah. May Allah make that happen for us, inshallah. But let's see, do we say yes to that, no to that, to some extent, or to a great extent? Number 10, I seek the help of Allah for everything. Yes, no, to some extent, to great extent. Number 11, I pray to Allah to guide me to the right path. Yes, no, to some extent, to a great extent. Number 12, I want to be with those upon whom Allah has bestowed His favor. Yes, no, to some extent, to a great extent. Number 13, I pray to Allah to save me from being with those who have evoked His anger. Yes, no, to some extent, to a great extent. Number 14, the last point for this assessment, I feel it is essential to build a bond with Allah. Yes, no, to some extent, to a great extent. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. We have gone through 14 points of Surah Fatiha. Here, scholar Ustad Nigat Hashmi in Fihi Zikrukum has this section where review and self-assessment points exist. And do I sincerely believe in these 14 points? Where do I stand with these 14 points? Alhamdulillah, this is something that you put in your notebook, inshallah ta'ala. You can look at it, you can review it, and then with it you can judge where you stand, inshallah ta'ala. This way we will have a more of an understanding with our connection with this Surah Fatiha, inshallah, and the commandments that are in it and the messages that are given to us in it, inshallah ta'ala.